Sziasztok, Zazaka vagyok. Folytatom tovább akkor a Gun Home játékot. Nem végigjátszást, a kommentárt fogjuk mindet meghallgatni ebben a sorozatban. A beállításoknál a hangot és a zenét és a hang effekteket picit visszavettem, mert mikor néztem vissza a videót és vágtam meg, akkor szeretném, hogyha ugye most a kommentárok minél jobban hallatszódjanak. Jó? Ennyit csináltam. Oké. Illetve itt vagyunk. 20 felvételt találtunk meg eddig. Ugye ezt jegyeznem kell. És azt találtam ki, hogy mivel nagyon sokat dumálok én is a játékban, hogy szépen a videó alatti leírásban, illetve a hozzászólásoknál is be lesz rakva, hogy a kommentároknak a meghallgatásához mikor indul. És akkor ugye aki nem kíváncsi erre a sok hülyeségre, amiket én beszélek, akkor az szépen így meg tudja hallgatni csak a kommentárokat, jó? Ezt találtam ki, és szerintem ez így korrekt. Oké, ezt ugye olvastuk, vagy meghallgattuk. Pontosabban. Ezeket én már kinyitottam, és itt van egy...
We never really discussed the idea of individually scoring each audio log ahead of time. I just got an email one day from Steve after they had done the first round of voice recording with Sarah Grayson, who did an amazing job as Sam. And he said he'd been thinking about the idea of giving each log a piece of music to ground it in the proper tone. So I just started doing these short 20 to 60 second pieces, and that ended up being the bulk of the work for the game. It was a very iterative process. I did them in the order they were recorded, and I would just keep sending revisions of each log to Steve, taking his feedback, modifying the piece, and sending it back. Especially at the beginning, the feedback was almost always pull it back more. I've never done music this subdued before. Even more so than most game music, it primarily exists to quietly suggest a mood and tone to the player. Sarah's voice is always the main audio content. The game soundtrack I worked on previous to this was Blendo Games' 30 Flights of Loving, which consists of some really huge, bombastic, brassy pieces. So switching gears to Gone Home and constantly hearing pull it back, less melody, was surprisingly challenging at first. But over time, I think Steve and I developed a pretty good rapport. For the most part, the diaries required fewer revisions each time. And it's always a good reminder in a collaborative endeavor that your contribution only exists to make the whole work better, not to be seen or heard unto itself.
Nagyon érdekes, hogy mennyivel könnyebb lenne mondjuk egy játéknak a fejlesztése, hogyha egy ember tudna egy játékot, de most ilyen nagy játékra gondolok természetesen. Jó, ez a hangeffekt, köszi. Tehát, hogy nagyobb játékra gondolok, most nem ilyen indie játékra, de ugye indie játéknál is az 2-3 ember csinálja. Nagyon ritka az, amikor egy ember csinál egy játékot, de szerintem, ha ő ért mindenhez, tud programozni, grafika, hang, zene, effektek, bla 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 bla, akkor ő van a legkönnyebb helyzetben, hiszen amit megálmod és elképzel a fejében, azt a legkönnyebb neki megvalósítani. Most egy több száz, ne adj Isten, több ezer fős stúdiónál ezt basszus milyen nehéz. Értitek elmagyarázni, hogy figyelj, én ezt nem így képzeltem. És látjátok, hogy még egy ilyen kis indie játéknál is, hogy igen, rá kellett érezni akkor itt a effekteknél, a zenéknél, ezeknél az rövid zenéknél, hogy akkor hogy képzeli ezt el ugye a játék fejlesztője, megálmodója, vagy megálmodói. Jó. Igen, és akkor itt volt egy kis érdekesség, mert meg akartam nektek mutatni ezt a kazettatokot, de hogyha ezt én fölveszem, és visszarakom, akkor elindul egy hangnapló. És most ugye mi azokkal nem akarunk foglalkozni. De ha még lesz ilyen véletlenül, akkor azokat kivágom. Bocs, csak húzok egy milyenkor mindig egy strigurát.
I had seen Bikini Kill and Bratmobile play their first show at the North Shore Surf Club in Olympia. That was Valentine's Day, 1991. And I was kind of blown away by the incredible rawness and the honesty that they wrote with, and the kind of flippancy that they had, I thought was really interesting. But you know, to have the opportunity to talk about all of these issues that are really important to young women, I thought was really special. And I thought that what they were doing was taking the kind of intense feminist ideas that had become popular in the 70s with, you know, SDSS, and now, I mean, those really, you know, incredible ideas and the ideology of feminism, but they were putting it into a language for today, you know, for the 90s, I guess. I mean, that was 20 years ago, but it was for young people, and it was to relate to topics about sexuality, about sex, about sexual abuse, about sexism and harassment, and all these things that are really important for young women coming of age and becoming sexual beings that are really taboo to talk about.
Ez ilyen érdekes. Amúgy a YouTube-on szerencsére fönt vannak ilyen koncertfelvételek is, pont ezekről az együttesekről. Sajnos sok nincs. De hogy lehet, hogy nem is volt pontos az, amikor azt mondtam, hogy punk zene. Mert a punk az több mindenből tevődik össze. De hogyha csak úgy nézzük, amit itt mondtak, hogy lázadás, őszintesség, fiatalság, stb., akkor lehet, hogy úgy helyes. De kinézetre nem... De hát mi, ahogy mi elképzeljük a punkot, ugye? Ezért furi, hogy ahogy én elképzelem a punkot, és amit ez tényleg esetleg jelent. Jó, érdekes ez is nagyon. Ez amúgy pont most jutott így eszembe. Jó. Ja, itt lesznek jó dolgok. Gyorsan felkapcsolom a pilácsokat. Legalábbis egy párat. Ó, itt lesznek jó dolgok. Na de haladjunk akkor. Nagyjából sorba.
Around here, you will find some of Sam's Super Nintendo cartridges that she left behind. Obviously, for legal reasons, we couldn't put real games in, and so we conscripted a few of our friends in the industry who are really talented artists to make cool label art for fake Nintendo games that we came up with.
It's so true. The first one was Super Spitfire, and that was by Rachel Morris, who is a cool artist. Who, what is it? The NYU?
The NYU Game Center. She's done a bunch of like posters and other art for them.
And then the next one was Adventures the Cat Returns, which is it's sort of a.
It's a mascot platformer. Yeah. It's a Bubsy-esque toad having cat.
Oh yeah, but it's a regular cat. It's not a ball cat.
Yeah, it's a regular cat that rides a motorcycle towards an explosion.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lee Petty is the art director at Double Fine and worked on Brutal Legend, and I think he led up Stacking. And awesome. He was nice enough to spend some of his free time making the label for Adventurous The Cat Returns.
Yeah, we ran into him at GDC, and he offered to help us out, and we were all like, cool.
We were like, oh, you didn't think we'd take you up on that offer, did you? Draw us a cat.
Yeah, he regretted the error of his ways. And then the third one is Journey of Crystal, which is sort of a JRPG beast, and that was done by Gen Z.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's the art director at Supergiant. She did pretty all of the art in Bastion.
Okay.
And is working on Transistor. I know we had some people say that they could tell that it was her art because it has such a signature look.
It's pretty distinctive
to how she does things. So it was really cool and really exciting to have these really talented people from other studios that are inspirations to us contribute their unique art to the game.
Abszolút nagyon jó. Super Nintendo. Lesz még szerintem erről szó, de nem biztos. Igen, hogy lehet... Ugye visszajöttem én a játékba felvételen kívül, és ugye megnéztem, hogy tényleg mindent megtaláltam-e egyrésztről. Másrésztről meg ugye itt mondtam, hogy volt az a kis hibám, hogy fölvettem azt a kazettatokot. De ugye, tehát ami ilyen halvány, nincs kiemelve, azt már olvastuk, ami világít, És ki van emelve, azt még nem olvastuk. Tehát így tudunk valami támpontot keresni a kommentárokkal kapcsolatban.
So these are stereoscopic? Yeah, these are stereograms.
Yeah,
That's the
stereogrammatic.
Yeah, stereograms, popularized by the Magic Eye brand of images from the 80s and 90s. These really work. Like if you cross your eyes and you can do a Magic Eye image, you can see what's in these. Spoilers, they are.
Well, as I recall, there's a cool shark.
And
I don't remember what the other one is.
Carla.
What?
It's a big heart.
Okay, it's hard for me to do those things.
And that's true for a lot of people. So the two instances of people not being able to see those images are they just can't do them, which a lot of people just can't do them, or they were born in the late 90s or after the 90s and played our game and didn't know what the hell these things were.
Yeah, they're like, what is this weird static shit? Yeah.
Well, I thought it was like we got some messages that were like, I thought it was just a weird drawing.
So good.
So, yes, as you get older, you can't hear really high-pitched sounds anymore, and you know what Magic Eyes are still.
It's the circle of life.
Nagyon jó volt ez is. Szerintem itt több nincs, így van. Igen, és ez nálunk is volt. Szerintem úgy hasonló ahhoz, aki volt komolyabb látásvizsgálaton, hogy vizsgálják azt, hogy nem vagy egy színtévesztő, nem vagy színvak. És akkor hasonló ábrákat ugye képzeljetek el. De hát itt látszik is.
One of the assets that I really liked creating in the game were these board games. So there's 3 in total of them throughout the house. Ideally there'd be more, but we had to focus on getting the walls built and things like that. But I really like them. They're just a simple extruded cube. There's something about environment design that's really fun. There's really goofy aspect of it where you have to create fake brand names. You have to create fake toys and fake storefronts. Maybe my favorite is in the game Costume Quest, when you're going through the shopping mall, there's a store called Why Not Flip Flops, which always makes me really happy. But this one is a parody of Dream Phone, which is an awful game that came out in the early 90s, where you sit around a table with your girlfriends and you pick up this plastic pink phone and call these sexy boys, and you see which one likes you. It doesn't really suit Sam's personality exactly. I figure maybe it was given to her by a well-intentioned relative who doesn't quite have her personality down, and maybe she played it once on a lark and then put it in the closet and that's where it stays.
Mom and Dad are much more actively religious. You know, there's a Bible in the foyer, and there's a Bible in Dad's bedside table.
Játékról
Well,
van szó.
arguably they want to appear actively religious. But yes.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, my intent was that they aren't super religious, but they probably still go to church.
And they also they would feel bad if they put their Bibles away. They'd be like, oh, we need those to be out for us to look at, to consult in case we need them, or something.
But it's definitely, I don't know, it comes from my own experience of my parents went to church and were more religious and stuff, and as, I don't know, around when I was like 10 or 12 or something, I was just sort of like, I remember having a conscious realization of just, none of this makes any sense. like I was like, this is all about a guy who was dead and then came back from the dead. That doesn't happen. Magic isn't real.
Wow.
And then there was a process of like just being like, okay, well I'm just not going to go to church. I also remember having a conscious realization that the only reason I wanted to go to church was because after the service they gave you free donuts.
Oh yeah, no, that's fine.
And so I don't know. It's probably just partially me projecting and trying to show that Sam is re-examining her own values as she gets older and grows out of childhood and doesn't necessarily share the same beliefs that her parents do.
I never tried really hard to, like, I don't know, actually, yeah, I don't know, it was normal church behavior, like, I would go and, like, help out with, you know, my younger siblings, and, like, my parents always went to church and whatever, and I'd go along, and there was, like, a couple of people that I knew there and everything, but it took me until I was about, I think I was, like, 13 or 14, and I spent a significant amount of time really trying to, like, to be like, alright, I'm gonna do this church thing, I'm gonna try really hard, and I would, like, get annoyed at people when they said, oh my god, and stuff, because I thought that was what we were supposed to do, and I think it was, I don't know, it lasted, like, whatever, 6 or 8 months or something, and then it broke, and I couldn't do it anymore, and I forget what I did something, I ruined something, in the church through total, not caring. I built I remember now, I built a house of cards out of a, Bible trivia,
like flashcard
set.
Yeah.
Well, it was just like Trivial Pursuit, except it was Bible based. And I built like this big house of cards, and at one point I remember thinking, alright, you know, fuck it, and I glued the cards into place. So I had this big house of cards that was glued together, totally like ruining all the goddamn cards. And at that point, I stopped having to go to church so much.
Igen, ez is érdekes. Tehát az én időmben legalábbis ugye teljesen más volt a valláshoz való viszony. Jó. Igen.
I was one of the hosts of the Idle Thumbs video game podcast for a year or two, and I, go on there, and every once in a while, those guys are my friends. And I didn't want to put Idle Thumbs references all over the game, but I did want to have Idle Thumbs references in the game, so we localized them entirely to this one piece of paper. So almost everything on here is an Idle Thumbs reference, and specifically to a weird exchange that we had about Will Wright's GDC talk in like 2008, where he didn't want everybody to show up and crowd the place, so he gave his speaker name as Phaedrus, and then did a talk about a bunch of crazy stuff, including the idea of rocket mail, which was going to be like done by it was pitched by the U.S. Postal Service in the 50s and stuff. So, and then the thing on the podcast was about how Phaedrus had a little brother, and so anyway, whatever. The brother, of course, it's a Phaedrus, and you can't hardly see the icon in the back because it's obscured, but there's this 50s rocket icon in the back that's like the logo of Phaedrus Motors, and then also it's the reference that Will Wright was making, and that is a secondary reference here because it's a motorcycle thing, is that in Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, the book, the author is having kind of an ongoing exchange with this character of from Greek history called Phaedrus and motorcycles and blah blah blah. So it's a big knot of obnoxious references to lots of different stupid things.
És erről van szó. És ugye, hogyha itt elolvassátok ugye a magyar szöveget, és én ránkattintok arra, hogy tehát tényleg a kiadványt lássuk, akkor meg ugye nem lehet olvasni semmit. Mert ugye a szöveg eltűnik a magyar felé. Tehát erről beszéltek. Mondjuk így, nem, ott van, nézzétek háttérben az a rakéta embléma. Jó, ide majd visszajövünk. Most már amúgy nem is jegyzem, majd visszanézem a videót, aztán majd akkor fölírom, hogy hány volt. Illetve, hogyha már ugye kitaláltam, hogy úgyis be kell raknom a címbe, illetve a cím alatti részbe, meg a hozzászólásokba, hogy hol vannak ugye a kommentárok, akkor azt felesleges nekem írogatni. Végig kell nézni a videót így belekattingatva.
Barfburger is enjoyed by all. So the thing is, I drew the barf burger because I drew all of Lonnie's drawings. So I drew the 2 cats on the motorcycle and the Captain Allegra drawings and stuff like that. And that was really I think that it goes hand in hand with I did Lonnie's handwriting in the game, and Carla did Sam's handwriting, and that was partly because the two of us were going to be working the most closely on this stuff, and so being able to just quickly like rewrite a note that we wanted to change and scan it and update the game and not have to like email somebody to say, oh, could you write that again or whatever, was really useful. And also we both just happened to have sloppy teenager handwriting that looks believably 17 years old. Also, I have a believably 17-year-old level of drawing skill, so that worked too. But it was fun because basically the notes were created in real life in essentially the same way they were in the fiction, where I would write my part of the note and then hand the piece of paper to Carla and she would write her part of the note, and we just constructed it that way.
Ez is rohadt jó sztori. Ezt most megnézzük, hogy miről van szó, ugye, sok ilyen feljegyzést ugye találunk a játékba, de lehet, hogy ugye el fog indulni valamilyen monológ ugye Sam részéről, most nem tudom. Hát erről van szó. És itt a burger. Jó, akkor nem indult el, szuper.
A lot of Gone Home is about pointless interactivity that is sort of things being interactive for the sake of them being interactive, but it really comes from our inspirations of immersive sims like System Shock and Bioshock and Thief, where a big part of the design philosophy behind those games and Gone Home is that the world needs to be really internally consistent, and there's this feeling that if there's something that your character might do, you should be able to do it in the game. So in Bioshock, for instance, you can flush all the toilets and you can turn on all of the faucets, and that's also true in like Deus Ex and Dishonored. Like, and sometimes, you know, like the water fountains in Deus Ex give you like 1 health or whatever, but really you can interact with them because there's this expectation of, if you could interact with that, if you encountered it in this world, we should let you do that, right? So, you know, all of the faucets in our game can be turned on, and they can be turned on so that you can turn them on and you can flush all of the toilets, and it extends into our philosophy behind you can pick up every plastic cup and toothbrush and Kleenex box, not because it's going to add a whole lot to your understanding of this world to be able to look at the underside of a cup, but to pay off that expectation and say to the player, yeah, you could pick that up and look at it, so we're going to let you do that, and it's going to be consistent interactively with the stuff that is important, and that makes it your job to look at everything and give it your attention, and for you to decide and understand and figure out what has significance and what doesn't, and not for us to tell that to you.
Ez is milyen érdekes, hogy... Tehát ugye a régi játékokban ez nem volt fontos. Tehát én most tényleg a 80-as évek játékaira gondolok. Talán még a 90-es évek játékaiban sem emlékszem, hogy ez nagyon kellett volna. Habár szerintem ott biztos, hogy voltak ilyen játékok. Tehát, hogy tényleg, hogy így... Na, nem tudom megölni azt a lovat, nem tudok ráülni arra a lóra, nem tudom megetetni azt a lovat, és egy csomó ilyen úgymond felesleges dolgot így bele kell programozniuk, ugye, a készítőknek, vagy a programozóknak, mert hogy ettől is jó lesz egy játék, és akkor ha már ezt nem értnek, akkor szar. Amúgy azért forogtam ide, mert hát ha nem tudom ki milyen monitoron nézi ugye hát az a videót, és nehogy az legyen, hogy nem tudom olvasni itt a háttér miatt a szöveget. A vízcsap kinyitásra jut eszembe, ha jól emlékszem, akkor az a PC-s verzióban is benne van, hogy van ehhez egy easter egg. Nézzetek utána, szerintem tök vicces.
The boxes of tampons that you can find in the washrooms around the house, they weren't originally on the list of items that needed to be modeled, but when you're creating a bathroom at that level of fidelity, and when you're creating a bathroom for a teenage girl, no less, the idea of not having something like that is kind of jarring. It was kind of jarring to me, especially because when you're at that age, your period is something that kind of really defines your mood at any given day, and maybe what you wear and where you go. So, I just thought it was, something necessary for visual storytelling, especially of a girl going through what she's going through.
Hát ehhez nem tudok mit hozzászólni.
I mean, one of the most comforting things in the world to me is having somebody, like, brush my hair or stroke my head. Like, my mom, when I wasn't feeling well, I could lie down in her lap, she would just brush my hair. And it would always make me feel better. Like, the weirdest way, I couldn't figure out why, but it just seemed like this friendly connection to somebody that it is, like she says, it is strangely intimate in a way that I'd not really, I guess, put into words until reading that part of the script. Where that's what I was thinking of, was like that connection, that sort of human touch, that it's something so friendly and so loving that you can do. And that whole idea of like touching someone's scalp being so intimate, it just made me think of that. Just those wonderful little moments where just a touch can be so much more.
Ehhez megint nem tudok mit hozzáfűzni. Hát, illetve hát persze, hogy az érintés nagyon fontos, de hát ugye nekem, ha csak el nem mentem fodrászhoz, ugye, akkor hát, szerintem mindig én fésültem a hajamat. Jó, hogy lehet talán gyerekkoromban nem. De mármint, hogy ott is csak pár alkalom volt esetleg, hogy mondjuk a anyukám megfésülte a hajamat, értitek? De hát, hogy ez igen, tehát, hogy ez egy kicsit más szerintem. Jó, megvolt. Szerintem bőven elég lesz, hogyha ezt a felső részt itt végignézzük. És akkor várjatok. Ott van. Szó.
The life cycle of the condom.
That's not a real thing, Steve.
The life cycle of the condom.
All right.
By Carla Zamanja.
Is as follows. Initially, the condom was a separate plot point. It was an actual plot point. We gave it to Lonnie, and we had Sam find it in Lonnie's purse, and it made Sam worried about what the hell she was doing with it, etc. And that was sort of a wedge to drive them apart when that was the storyline, which it no longer is. And because we decided we hated it. But I had already made the condom asset, which I'm actually really proud of. I really like that condom. It's really good. Also, I think Nero is a really good brand for condoms. Anyway.
Yeah, it's a play on Trojan and everything, but it works.
But it's, it's the whole, like, notably decadent,
right,
it's like, anyway, I like it. I'm proud of this thing.
And the specular on it looks really nice.
It does look good. I don't know. So we had this, extra asset lying around, and we were like, we were all, oh, it's a shame that it's going to waste, but whatever, sometimes things don't get used. And then we remembered the horror of digging around in your parents' drawers and finding their condoms and stuff and being just utterly fucking horrified. And we decided we would give that to you, the player.
Hát én nem tudom, szerintem ez egy tök természetes dolog. Van a sokat emlegetett Biblia itt is, vagy hát nem sokat, amit már egyszer említett. Mi ez a bárányok hallgatnak? És itt érdekes, hogy itt megint teljesen más, ugye, ilyen... Ez lehet, hogy a nőnek, illetve lehet vegyesen, mert ugye ez a férfi írása, de ez ilyen nagyon nőies. Tehát, hogy ez lehet, hogy így vegyes. Mármint, hogy apa és anya érte.
One of my favorite things that came out during development was someone wrote an email mistakenly referring to mittens, and Steve replied in the voice of Katie, saying, "It's just Mitten. She's only one cat, Mom."
És ez lett így megörökítve? Ott is van például ugye a társasjáték. De lehet, hogy... Aha, erről is akkor szó esik. Jó.
Another board
Well,
game.
music.
This one wasn't done by me though. This one was
Oh.
done by Carla. But I really like it because the ghost figures on the back of the game are actually long deceased family members of mine.
Mi?
When I was home at Christmas, I was digging through my family's basement, sort of getting an idea of what a basement has in it, just sort of for set dressing purposes. And while I was down there, I found a big box that my family actually hadn't seen. We got a big box of things from my grandmother after she passed away. And inside this box was all these tin types, love letters and sort of emigration papers and notes from as far back as the 1850s when my family had emigrated from Scotland and Ireland. And I asked my family if it was possible that I include these in some sort of artistic project, and they said sure. They gave me their blessing, and I scanned them. And I didn't know if they were actually going to make it in the game, but then I saw that Carla had made this game, and really liked that they showed up as ghosts on the back of it. And it's sort of, I think, a nod for idle film systems who really feel quite passionately about ghosts, as it turns out. Surprise!
Hú, ez a... Nem tudom, hogy nagyon közel hall jót a mikrofonhoz. Most nem észrevettem így a fülesén keresztül. Remélem nektek nem lesz annyira rossz. De érdekes ez is. Igen, ezért jobb talán indinek lenni, mert tényleg bármit meg. Hát tényleg nem bármit, de hogyha nem mondod ki is konkrétumként, vagy nem utalsz rá úgy annyira, tehát tényleg betehetsz bármit is. Csak ugye, mit tudom én, megváltoztatod egy kicsit. És még jó pofa is. Oh, ez!
There's a lot less density in the house than there would be in a real house. Like, if you look around your house, there's just junk piled everywhere, probably.
Maybe
like,
it's just our house.
I think it's most house.
Oh, you're right.
But, so, you know, our strategy was you either fully invest in something and, you know, put, like, a plausible representation of this aspect of a room in, or you just don't put it in at all. And the player will fill in the gaps between, like, oh, these are all the things that represent the kind of room I'm supposed to be in, and it doesn't jump out at me that there's no toilet plungers in the bathroom or whatever. But the biggest instance of this that I think actually totally worked, because no one has ever called it out, is, surprise, think about it, there are no shoes in this house. Ta-da!
Where's your brain now?
and I don't think anybody's noticed it, and I think it's because if we had put one pair of shoes or two pairs of shoes, people would have said, where are all the rest of the shoes?
Right.
But really, to have a plausible house, Mom would have to have 10 pairs of shoes and her work boots, and Dad would need to have some tennis shoes and some work shoes, and so on and so forth. So we just said, there aren't going to be any shoes, and we hope nobody notices.
És hát gondolom igaz, hogy akkor ezt tényleg így eltervezték, és nekem se tűnt föl. Legalábbis én nem emlékszem, hogy bárhol is fölhánytorgattam volna a végigjátszás folyamán. Te figyelj, hol vannak a cipők? Oké, egy csomó dolog nincs a játékban, ha belegondoltok, de hát ez szerintem ez így természetes. Viszont a cipők talán tényleg egy olyan, hogy hát tehát nincsenek cipők egy házban, tehát ez annyira egy mindennapos, elképzelhetetlen tárgy. Mármint, hogy elképzelhetetlen, hogy nincs. Na, ott végeztünk is. Na, azt a mindenit. Szülők birodalmát átnéztük. Oké. Csak egy lesz?
Almost none of the events, the little events in the game, are scripted as far as like triggering when you do something specific. So all of the thunder and lightning and the creaky noises in the house, they're all just randomized on timers. The only like scripted thing is in the secret passageway. When you look at the crucifix,
Ezt majd meg is nézzük
there's scripting that detects that you did that, and then it causes the light to pop, which is my one indulgence of like messing with the player. But we've had a lot of people play the game and say, you know, oh, the way you scripted it so that right when I walked into the TV room there was that big thunder and lightning strike, like that was really spooky, or you know, I walked through that one door and then you played that sound behind me, and it's like it's awesome that the combination of all the different kind of like significant actions you can do in the game,
Right.
like crossing into a new room or opening a door or this, that, or the other thing, and the randomization of stuff can make it seem like the random elements have extra significance to them, but in fact it's like you just got lucky, basically.
Yeah, it's total apophenia, because like, yeah, it's just because there's enough random things going on, and you can do enough things that eventually some of them are going to line up,
Yeah.
which is, you know, cool.
Ja, és ez is érdekes, mert tehát persze, hogy az nem merült föl bennem sem, hogy az összes ilyen hangeffekt, mondjuk az, nem mondjuk scriptel, de egy párat el tudtam képzelni én is. Hogy na, ott amikor azt csinálom, vagy belépek, vagy azt elolvasom, hogy akkor na azon megszólalt hangeffekt, az na a scriptelt. De hát úgy néz ki, hogy nem. Tehát, hogy teljesen véletlenszerű az egész. Illetve hát egy kivételével, ahogy mondták. Jó van, fiúk, akkor itt csak egy volt. Na hát, ebbe a szobába is csak egy lesz. Na nézzük.
I really enjoyed playing Gone Home. I have to say it was pretty exciting to find the Heavens to Betsy tape, you know, because that was really, I mean, those songs really did come out on a cassette tape at the time, and that really was how people discovered the music, was getting a cassette tape passed around. So getting to put it in the actual tape player and play it and listen to our song, it definitely gave me chills. I mean, it was like, wow, you know, how exciting for a young person today to get that moment of discovery and to listen to our music. I mean, I think it's great.
Hát vagy akár tényleg egy ott náluk élő most ugye fiatal, vagy akár egy olyan ember, aki Európában játszik vele, egy kis Magyarországon, és hát igen, és akkor itt többet tud meg arról a korszakról, a zenéről, mert mindenféleképpen a undergroundnak számít, ugye, tehát nem azt, amit mi megszoktunk, ugye mondjuk az MTV-n ugye később, amikor bejött, vagy ami eljutott hozzánk akár a rádiókon keresztül. Tehát, hogy itt tök érdekes, igen. És nem tudom, ezért is jó ilyen játékokkal játszani. Jó. Nem mintha én nagy szerelmese lennék, de például lehet, hogy van olyan néző, aki lehet, hogy pont ez a zenei stílus ugye tetszik neki. Fölvettem amúgy a kazettát? Megnézzük, ha már ugye itt volt a Heavens Betty. Basszus kulcs. Semmi sem állítható. Nem mondjátok, basszus, hogy itt nincs egy... Ezt a játékban úgy emlékszem, hogy ki lehet nyitni. Oh baby, de jó, látjátok, ezért kell mindenhova benézni, ezt most elfeledkeztem róla.
Okay, the Wildfire book. Oh man, look at this thing. Yeah, this was another one of those situations in which I totally felt like a weird creepo when I was doing research, and there was a lot of really horrifying romance novel covers. This poor guy was on somebody's Flickr account that was allowed, that was a Creative Commons attribution licensed. And I think he was playing volleyball or something. And I don't know.
So you just put suspenders
Yes.
on him and put an axe in his hand, and now he's a fireman.
Yes, I did.
It's the
I
best.
did it, and I will cop to it, and I do it again. Also, as I recall, because I'm a noob, I initially picked total bondage suspenders.
That's true. So you had started working on it, and I went upstairs, and then I came back down.
And like Yaron and I were like, you know, we're all like, what should we do for this?
And
thing?
I was like,
yeah.
those are fucking leather daddy suspenders. What are you doing?
And what I should have said is, damn it, he noticed.
Hát ez hatalmas sztori. Ez hatalmas sztori. Igen, egy picit furi volt, ugye ez a borító, az tény. De hát mindegy. Gondoljuk azt, vagy gondolhattuk azt, hogy természetesen nem használhatott ugye egy rendes könyvnek a borítóját, mert hát úristen. Jó. Hát akkor szerintem itt ennyi. És az a helyzet, srácok, hogy... Jó, hát egy picit rövidebb lesz a videó, illetve előkészülhetünk azzal kapcsolatban, hogy itt még vannak most már rejtek ajtók, tehát most már nem mehetünk el a rejtek helyek mellett, a rejtek ajtókba nem mehetünk be, tehát most már be kell mennünk, ugyanis ezt a szekrényt ki kell nyitnunk. Na most ezt a szekrénynek ugye a kódját, két helyen találhatjuk meg a kódot. Kezdjük akkor ezzel. Hú, basszus. Na. Az egyik az ez. És akkor ezt föl is veszem. Ugye ezekhez a rejtek ajtókhoz majd ugye találhatunk a játék folyamán utalásokat, tehát ezeket úgy találjuk majd. Ugye mindent tényleg el kell olvasni, meg kell találni, és akkor úgy tudunk tovább haladni itt a házban is, és a történetben is. Igen, és akkor itt is van egy... Oké. Tehát itt van egy plusz kommentár.
This is where you find the first half of Sam's locker, or I guess it's actually the second half of Sam's locker combo as far as what the piece of paper is. But at first, there were the locker combination sheet was torn into 3 pieces. So you had 1 digit on each of them, and it was actually right before we sent out our IGF build to the judges. It was the night before, and Carla came down into the basement, and she was like, at 3 o'clock in the morning last night, I woke up in bed just being like, oh, we can't have it in 3 pieces, that's way too gamey. Well, that's bad, we have to fix that. And
I forgot about that.
And you were absolutely right. And you've had a couple of those being woken up by us making a bad decision kind of moments over the course of the development, and they were always important changes that needed to be made.
És milyen érdekes. Ja, és akkor várjátok 0501, jó. Igen, mert itt is van egy. És hogyha ugye úgy akarunk tovább menni, akkor nekünk szükségünk van a kulcsra. És akkor vágás után vissza is jöttünk meg, akkor ezt kivágtam, jó? Ezt viszont meghallgatjuk.
Yeah, I ended up being pretty happy with this. This is the only picture of Lonnie that we had for a really long time, and I was really glad to actually come up with something that we liked, since this kind of thing is really hard, especially when it is such a major character. The other thing is, Lonnie has a cross necklace. She also has some Catholicism in her family.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I don't think that particular detail has been called out by anybody. People notice like the Bibles and whatnot, but yeah, I intended for Lonnie, like I thought it would be interesting if she came from a more conservative family than Sam's, in that she actually wears a cross necklace and carries some, you know, Catholicism with her, and her dad was an army guy, and you know, her background is even in some ways maybe kind of more stifling than Sam's, and that's probably why she's a more like openly rebellious person on the outside.
De ez is milyen érdekes. És várjátok, most hogy csináljuk? Mert nem akarok visszarohanni. Habár lehet! Jó, gyorsan menjünk vissza. Mert ugye Lonnie-ról itt van egy kép. Most nem tudom, hogy pontosan ugye hogy hangzott a előadás. Ugye itt van ugye Sam, Katie, Mom and Dad. Tehát Lonnie-ról itt van egy kép, de ugye itt is van egy kép Lonnie-ról. Csak ugye itt nem Lonnie-ként, látjátok hogy? Hanem Deseto. De Lonnie Deseto. Ha jól tudom, hogy ez a teljes neve. Hiszen tudjuk jól, hogy Lonnie ugye jó, hát még nem tudjuk jól, de ugye aki majd játszgájátok, azt tudja, hogy ugye ő katonai iskolába jelentkezett és jár ilyen valami előkészítőre. Oké, hát itt akkor ezzel megvoltunk, ezzel is megvoltunk. Itt most fönt, ami van, 2 dolog van, abból az egyik érdekes. Az ez. Ugye például itt találjuk meg szinte az összes ilyen rejtek helyet, falba elrejtett rejtek helyet, illetve ugye nagyisen az ilyen ajtókat. És akkor itt van, amiről beszélt, ami biztos, hogy ugye skriptelt, ez a kereszt. És megnézzük a keresztet. És akkor ugye ez itt kialszik. Jó, hát várjátok, ez van ide fölírva a keresztre. Ez esetleg érdekel. Oké. És pont jó helyen lyukadunk ki, mert pont ide kellett visszajönnünk, vagy kell visszajönnünk. De szerintem... Szerintem itt most... Még itt az alsó részen végignézzük a rejtek helyeket, de nem megyünk már majd lejjebb. Ha jól tudom, akkor itt van még egy rejtek hely, igen. De itt nincs semmi, ugye, ami hangos kommentár lenne. Ezt már elfelejtettem. És azt hiszem, hogy máshol nincs. Várjatok, hadd gondolkodjam. Itt nem emlékszem, hogy lenne ebben a szobában. Ott arra megyünk majd le. Itt sem emlékszem, hogy lenne. Ugye itt akkor megtaláltuk. Ezt is kinyitottuk, és az a helyzet, hogy itt van még egy rejtek hely, de azt nem most kell megnéznünk. Jó, tehát akkor több itt most egyelőre nincs Ott még azon a rejtek helyen még lesz egy hangos kommentár. Vagyis hát egy kommentár. És itt megyünk le, srácok. De akkor majd a következő videóban folytatjuk, mert itt most ugye lemegyünk a pincébe végső soron, és az nagyon-nagyon-nagyon hosszú idő lesz. Jó, és akkor innen fogjuk folytatni, és most már remélem akkor kialakul az a rend is, hogy amit elképzeltem, hogy ami nem ide illik, azt kivágom, illetve ami pedig szépen fölcímkézem, hogy mikor találtuk meg, mikor hallgatjuk meg a hangos kommentárokat, jó? Köszöntem szépen a figyelmet, jók legyetek, vigyázzatok magatokra, sziasztok!